Good morning, everyone. Let me begin by welcoming all of you who are with us, either through live stream, a replay with us, or in our Zoom meeting. A special meeting of council for the purpose of considering Ordinance 2020-43 and discussing the current state of city finances has been called. Council anticipates going into executive session for the purpose of land acquisition and disposition to last about 20 or 30 minutes, and a discussion of that ordinance that I just described will continue after that time. We will work in executive session as quickly as we can. But first, I need to open us up with a prayer. Vice Mayor Gilb has agreed to open us up in prayer, and then we'll go over some other housekeeping items. Vice Mayor Gilb, welcome back.
Thank you. Sorry, I missed your earlier meetings. As a former judge, when we got involved in a new case, we always had to say, we've looked at the files, we've understand what's happening. And so let me assure you, I've watched the replays of this video. I've seen what you guys have been discussing. Sorry, I was unable to be there Saturday or Monday, and glad to be with you today. But let's take a moment and have a word of prayer. Lord Jesus, we thank you for bringing us together. We thank you for your wisdom. Certainly we lack wisdom. As your word reminds us, if we lack wisdom, let us ask of you and you will give it to us, Father. Lord, we're asking for your wisdom today in these turbulent times. We're asking for your intervention, your peace, your hope throughout this land. And Father, be with us as a council, be with us as a city, be with us as a nation, and be with this whole world, Father, and bring us all together as only you can. In your precious name we pray. Amen.
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 All right. Eric, could you please call the roll?
Councilmember Nelson.
Here.
Councilmember Chance.
Here.
Councilmember Bradburn.
Here.
Councilmember Stricula.
He's here.
Councilmember Stricula.
I think maybe his earphones aren't working.
Maybe I'll continue with the roll call while he works on the audio. Councilmember Gilb, or Vice Mayor Gilb.
Here.
Councilmember Hunterlaw.
Here.
Mayor Grossman.
Here.
Councilmember Stricula. We cannot hear you. Can you hear us?
Does it count if we can read his lips and we can see his face and we know that he's here for the record?
Jeff, can we mark him present?
By the way, Councilmember Stricula is having some audio problems that he's working on. I think.
Okay, how about now?
There you go.
Okay.
Is that good?
Yes, we can hear you.
Wonderful. Also joining us, as you can see, our city manager, Eric Hansen, our assistant city manager, Jennifer Heft, our law director, Forbes, and we have guests, Scott Jones, our finance director, Joe Riegelsberger, and from the CDC, we have Scott Jones, John Kramer, Randy Kuven, and Sherry Taylor, as well as our friend from ICRC, our partner today, Jason, is back with us. So we thank you, Jason. Okay.
Real quick, sorry, can you hear me?
Yes. It's good to hear your voice, Councilmember Stricula. Thank you so much. All right.
Victory.
So as I mentioned a moment ago, we need to go into executive session, and I ask that you bear with me as we navigate this new procedure with our live streaming technology. Momentarily, we'll adjourn into executive session, and I'm just going to guess that it's going to take us 20 to 30 minutes. The live stream will continue during that time, and you'll see a screensaver from ICRC there, but you won't be able to be present in that meeting with us because of the rules of executive session. We will join that on a separate Zoom call with our law director as host. At When we are finished in executive session, we will reconvene in open session. And at that time, our live stream will resume. I can assure you we'll work as quickly as we can. There are certain topics that we can only discuss in executive session, and we need to do a little bit of housekeeping to get our house in order before we make some decisions today. And so with that, I would like to ask council for a motion to adjourn into executive session for the purpose of land acquisition or disposition.
Can I make a comment?
Not now, please. Is there a
No,
motion?
I just don't think it's appropriate to go into executive session.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we will join you momentarily.
Aren't we allowed to discuss? Isn't there open for on this, Jeff?
Yeah,
Hang on one second. Hang on one second. Let me refer that to our parliamentarian and council while I've got you all here in one place. We've been meeting in executive session. We've met in executive session several times for the purpose of land acquisition and disposition. I think it's appropriate for us to take a few minutes in executive session to talk about some items that are ongoing in our discussion and to take that opportunity to set some priorities before we come out into open session and make some other decisions. So Law Director Forbes, if you could give us some assistance today.
Certainly. At this point, you have a motion and a second to adjourn into executive session. As with any motions on the floor of council, it's now subject to council discussion. When that discussion is concluded, you'll need to take a roll call vote.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. Council discussion one at a time, please. Councilmember Chance, I saw your hand first.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Thanks for setting this up again. And I just have a question and a few comments. And Mayor, do you really think this is a good time to go into executive session to discuss land acquisition? I mean, I believe in the spirit of it. I've been in them in the past. I'll be in them in the future. And I know they hold a spot. And I, like I said, the spirit of executive session, I 100% believe in. But currently we are in the worst economic disaster, disruption, pandemic, whatever you want to call this thing. And I think there should be one thing that we're focusing on. And we're focusing on
Chance,
our last.
that is precisely the point of going into executive session.
No, I'm making.
Yes, I'd 100% believe it's necessary.
So, well, I've spent countless hours listening to you talk about transparency. I think it's time to be transparent.
And that is exactly what I've done, sir. Is there another comment from another council member, please?
And judging from the support.
Yeah, I don't think Ashley's done. And when he has the floor, I hope that all council members are respecting our right to speak. So Ashley, if you could please continue. And once
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I know I get in trouble a lot from the mayor for being disruptive, and I apologize, but I'm just trying to make my statement and get my.
Councilmember, I'm sorry. I thought I was answering your question that you asked. Excuse me for talking over you. I didn't realize that my audio is down pretty low.
And I also think it's pretty insensitive to our, we've asked a lot of people, and I know a lot of people have joined this call. And I think it's pretty insensitive to them right now to say, hey, we're going to go in executive session and not know when we're going to come back. I think we need to keep our eye on the prize. We've spent countless hours this past week to discuss what we want to discuss. And that's how, and I think our citizens want to hear from us to see if we're going to support local business, not about going into land acquisition. I mean, I just think the audacity to do that right now in the turbulent times. And like I said, the times of unprecedented, uncharted territory. And I just don't agree with it. And I much rather get our city business out of the way. That needs to be done now. And I just don't think this delays that. I just don't think we need to go into executive session to discuss land acquisition, considering what we are dealing with right now. Very insensitive. Thank you.
Councilmember Chance, I'm going to answer your question and address that. You've assumed that my motive is untoward, and you've characterized that as being insensitive. When I'm asking council, I'm not saying I want to go into, I have to announce that we would be going into executive session for the purpose of land acquisition or disposition, because that's the rule. But when we go in to consider purchases of land, which we have done, we consider spending money on that. And so it is appropriate for us to have a brief discussion in there to get our house in order. And I am so sorry that this is so inconvenient. I know that it is. And I'm not saying that sarcastically. I am saying that from the heart. This is terribly inconvenient because the rules say we have to adjourn the meeting like this and live stream, or not, or commence the meeting like this and live stream and then adjourn into executive session. And I have no intention of being rude to the public, but I believe it's imperative that we have this discussion in executive session as the rules require. And then we come back out so that we can work hard for our residents and show our support for the small business community. So please don't assume that my motives are improper or inconsiderate to the public. They are not. And as the
It's not
mayor,
as
it's my job to structure the meeting. Do you have any other questions for me or comments?
Can we do it? Yeah, why don't we wait to do this on April 13th during our regular meeting? I thought this was a special meeting to discuss 2020-43.
Because I think it will impact how we're able to fund this proposal. Any other questions or comments? Councilmember Nelson.
I just also want to go on record saying that I think this is extremely disrespectful to our community right now. We have a number of individuals, our residents, our small businesses are tuned in because they want to see what is happening within our city and how we're going to help them. And in the 4 years that I've been on council, we have never had executive session first thing at the beginning of a council meeting. If you want to go into executive session, it really should be saved till the end in respect for our residents and our small businesses. And I'm pretty sure I know what this executive session is in regards to, and I'm very disappointed that we are even discussing this at this moment when we have a crisis on our hands and we have businesses that are going out of business and people who are suffering. So I just wanted to put that on record.
Thank you, Councilmember Nelson. Is there anyone else? Okay, let's call the roll, please.
Councilmember Nelson,
No.
Councilmember Chance,
No.
Councilmember Bradburn,
Yes.
Councilmember Stricula,
No.
Vice Mayor Gilb,
Yes.
Councilmember Hunterlaw,
Yes.
Mayor Grossman.
Yes. Jeff?
Thank you, Mayor. At this point, that motion passes with 4 affirmative votes. Procedurally, here's what I think we need to do at this point. Council members, Mr. Hanson and Mrs. Heft are going to leave this meeting, leave this Zoom meeting. Once that happens, I am going to send, so for those folks, council members, Eric and Jennifer, I'm going to text you the link to a new Zoom meeting that I will host separately from this stream for the purpose of that executive session. So once everyone has left this meeting, look at your phone or device, and I'll bear with me because I've never done this part before. So I will get you this meeting invitation as quickly as I can.
Can we, how are we going to let the citizens know when to get back into our regular session?
I have a suggestion, if I may. Let's all set our timers for 35 minutes to give us 5 minutes for technology and about 25 minutes to discuss an executive session and run to the restroom if someone needs that, and reconvene and to deal with our technology again. So it is now 11:21. So if members of the public could set who are watching the live stream, go ahead and set your timer for 35 minutes and we will work ourselves hard to try and be right back on time. I think that's all the time we need.
Mayor, just for those watching and Jason at ICRC, I think we will now flip. There will be a screen. The streaming will actually continue, even though we won't be in the meeting. And there will be a screen indicating to those folks watching that to stand by as we go into executive session. Jason, anything else we need to add? There it is.
I think we are good.
So
I sent you a
council
message,
members
Eric.
should leave the meeting now.
Okay, thank you. Leave meeting.
Can you guys hear me? I just want to check my sound again.
Yeah.
Jason?
Thank you. I'll mute myself now.
Is Jason
Still here.
here?
Yes.
Okay, I think we're probably gonna need 5 minutes or so, restroom breaks. But maybe if we can, and I just want to make sure everyone's here, but I'm not sure we should do it while the slide's up.
If you want me to drop the slide? I can also see a list of participants, or you could too.
Okay, yes, can you, can I
Manage
see that too now?
participants up top. Yes.
Oh, I have
you
that too now.
Yep.
So if they're there, that means they're in the meeting?
Correct.
Okay. So maybe. Ashley, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. Sherry, I assume you can't hear me?
I don't know that she. Oh, there she is.
Yeah. I'm trying.
Why do we have so many bathroom breaks? Like, we're not kids. Can't you hold it for a little bit?
Nope.
I had to go.
All right.
We're still checking to see.
I can hear you, Eric.
Sherry, you're there?
Can you hear me?
Yes. John, Randy, Scott. Sherry, could you maybe send a text to Randy and Scott and John, let them know we're back? It looks like they're here, but they may not have their audio on.
Eric?
Yes. Sherry? Hey, Jason?
Yes, sir.
I think we're ready. I'm not sure everyone's here, but if you want to remove the screen so everyone will now be visible.
There we
getting
go.
some reports that there's like a delay, just a long delay in the reception.
Okay.
John, can you hear us?
Jeff, I'll ask for a motion to reconvene into regular session.
Yes, yeah, and then we'll take a roll call once we get word that we're, you'll want to do that after the live stream is back in action. And that might be.
We're back on the live stream.
Okay, we are back. I need a motion to reconvene into regular session.
I'll make that
So
motion.
moved. Second.
Okay, thank you. Now call the roll, please.
Councilmember Bradburn? Councilmember Bradburn, we can't hear you. Looks like you have mute on.
Here.
Okay. I think it's a motion to reconvene.
I still agree with it.
Councilmember Stricula,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gilb,
Yes.
Councilmember Hunterlaw,
Yes.
Mayor Grossman,
Here.
Councilmember Nelson.
Here.
Okay, it is a motion to reconvene, so it's a.
Oh, I'm
yes.
sorry. I thought you said you were taking.
No, there's a motion
Yes.
to reconvene into
Yes.
regular session.
I apologize. Yes.
Yep. Councilmember Chance.
Yes.
Okay. I think
Okay,
Sherry
thank you
is
for bearing
here.
with
Oh,
us. Okay.
it looks like everyone's here, not necessarily video.
I did see Sherry. Okay, thank you
There's
for your
Scott.
patience. Oh, here comes Scott. Thank you for your patience as we learn a new platform for public meetings. Okay, before we begin with the motion with legislation, I'm going to just kind of summarize the journey that we've experienced so far, just briefly. This past Saturday and Monday, Council has met over 2 lengthy work sessions to discuss a method of bringing aid to the hurting small business community in Mason. On Saturday, the concept was introduced, and on Monday, we heard a report from representatives of our Maid Chamber and the private nonprofit Mason Deerfield Community Chambers Community Development Corporation. I'm sorry, I got that a little bit mixed up. And I believe they were formed last year. Is that correct? We have received a great deal of feedback. I'm sorry? Did I miss something? Okay, we've received quite a bit of feedback from local business owners and residents.
Welcome to Zoom. Enter your meeting ID followed by pound.
We have a special visitor, a new voice. Okay, sorry guys. All right, so
Your
we've received a lot of
participant ID,
feedback
You are in the meeting now.
from local businesses, owners, residents, through emails, phone calls, and social media. The evening of March 15th, the governor abruptly announced that restaurants and many small businesses must shut down. As one local business owner described to me, he went to bed generating millions of dollars in annual revenue and woke up a pauper. On March 27th, Congress passed the CARES Act. The governor also signed into law our ability to have online public meetings in order to meet open meetings laws on March 27th. So on Saturday morning, the next day, March 28th, we had our first public group discussion as a council of 7 since March 9th, when things were a bit more normal. We asked to hear a proposal from representatives from the Maid Chamber and the Community Development Corporation. To summarize that proposal as best I can, we were asked to pass legislation to transfer $500,000 to the CDC in a fund managed by that CDC to provide aid for local businesses. We received the draft legislation March 29th, this past Sunday, to review, and the written proposal from the CDC on Monday, March 30th, shortly before the work session we had. Before I go on, I'd like to take a moment to sincerely thank the representatives of the Maid Chamber and the CDC who worked quickly to write a proposal for us to review. I want to thank them for their unwavering support of our small business community, as well as their desire to partner with the City of Mason on multiple endeavors, including this most recent proposal, somewhat modeled by the City of Hamilton, who funded their local CDC with $300,000 to use for the purchase of gift cards to help sustain local businesses. That story broke on March 20th. Now, as an aside, when we at the city learned of Hamilton's gift card initiative, we immediately began working on a smaller program of our own. It's called the Come Together Mason Initiative, which you can now find advertised on our website at imaginemason.org. Within a week, our skeleton crew of a staff launched a program, which we hope will explode with support from the public, even for local businesses who are closed and do not know when they can return to full operations. There's a way to benefit from this program. Not only are the businesses that participate pulling together, the community center and our city are as well, to share the risk should any particular participant, God forbid, not be able to reopen. If you visit that website, you can make personal purchases of those gift cards yourself. And I did that today. I bought the maximum amount that was suggested, which was $250. And if we think about what the private sector can do, anybody can visit that website and click on that app or click on the links, and you'll find out how to navigate to purchase gift cards to help sustain our local businesses that are participating. So here we are in unprecedented circumstances for us as community leaders. A global health crisis has paralyzed the nation's economy, and it has brought our local business community to its knees, particularly our small businesses. Proverbs 3:27 says, "Do not withhold good from those to whom it is due when it is in your power to act." Proverbs 4:7 says, "The beginning of wisdom is this, get wisdom." How do we best address this crisis at the local level? Just 17 days after our businesses were suddenly forced to close, and just 2 days since we've been given a proposal on how to allocate a proposed $500,000 grant of public funds toward a grant program to small local businesses to be awarded and distributed by the private nonprofit CDC. We are here today to figure that out. The intention of these proposed grants, just to summarize some more, is to help local small businesses that meet certain criteria to be set forth by the CDC to cope with problems so profound that by the time they would be distributed to all of the potential applicants, unfortunately, it would scratch the surface of the deep, profound need of these businesses. They need the support of their community right now to rally around them. On March 27th, Congressman Shabbat, ranking member of the Committee on Small Business, said the following about the CARES Act. "Small businesses and their employees rise before the sun and retire under the stars to ensure their customers' needs are met and often exceeded." I think it's safe to speak on behalf of our council, our staff, and our community when I say how deeply we appreciate and care for our small businesses in Mason. As the chair of this meeting and the meetings on Saturday and Monday, I've done my best to provide the opportunity for council to seek wisdom and to hear the questions and concerns of all of its members, and to give us at least a little bit of time to hear from the public. Our past 2 meetings were work sessions, which gave us the opportunity to work through things. Work sessions are all about working through. With our new open meetings legislation, we had to do that working through while being live streamed, which is the first time in our history to experience that. There were moments when our debate was passionate and unpolished. No matter what one's position was on the issue, we all fell short from time to time in what we said. I ask the public to extend grace to us today as we do our best to work through today in this meeting. As of Monday, we have not found consensus on how and when to move forward with ordinance 2020-43. We're going to work on that some more today. Some wanted to adopt the proposed legislation immediately, and some wanted more time to research and hear feedback from the public. In a moment, we'll have our law director review the procedures that we need to go through for this meeting, and we will put legislation on the floor. But before I ask for a review and motion, I'm going to remind council that our discussion must be germane to the motion on the floor and that the rules of decorum shall be followed. I also ask that the public bear with us in the awkwardness of our procedure as we are new to council meetings conducted in this format. I also would ask for a motion to limit council discussion once the motion is on the floor to, let's say, 5 minutes each, if that's amenable to council. Is there such a motion?
As I said earlier when we started this meeting, you know, I had the opportunity to review the discussions in work sessions that you guys had on Saturday and Monday. Those were saved. I was able to tap into those and review them. Certainly spirited, long debates, but I think it would be appropriate here. I'm going to suggest, I'm going to move that we do limit the discussion here. Perhaps 5 minutes for proponents to make statements, 5 minutes for opponents to make statements, and that we then take a vote and get to a point where we have actually some final decisions on what we're going to do.
Okay, is there a second in that motion?
I'll second that.
Okay, let's call the roll on the motion to limit.
Excuse me, don't we have discussion?
5 minutes each.
Can we have a discussion?
Oh, I'm sorry. Let's discuss. We can discuss it. Hopefully our discussion about limiting discussion time isn't longer than 5 minutes each. Hang on one second. I'm formulating my thoughts. I think there, if we can, we might be able to circle back around to some new business after the meeting. I'm just trying to be respectful of time because we met for 3 hours and discussed this on Saturday, and I was hoping that we could be a little bit more structured. It doesn't mean that we can't change our minds and make another motion, I guess. I don't know. Jeff, would you like to speculate on that for me?
At this point, there's a motion and a second on the floor to limit debate to 5 minutes per member. And that motion is subject to discussion right now.
Okay.
And council is always free to make motions throughout the course of its consideration.
Okay. All right. So we've got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion further?
Ashley, did you have something?
Councilmember Chance?
Yeah, I just, it won't take me 5 minutes, but I just wanted to apologize for our lack of compassion and arrogance again to our community for going into executive
That's not
session.
the motion.
I just wanted to make that.
Okay, I need commentary germane to the motion to limit commentary to 5 minutes each. Councilmember Nelson?
I just want to say that I'm against this. We should be able to speak for as long as we need to speak to get our point across or to correct any incorrect information. So I would like to say I am against this.
Okay, Councilmember Stricula?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think the purpose of us being here is to have a full discussion, iron out the details. I think limiting our discussion, I mean, that's why we were asked as representatives of the community to come together and work through these issues. I think limiting the discussion, I understand from a time perspective, I agree. But I think limiting the discussions doesn't make sense.
Okay, Councilmember Guild?
Yeah, I just want to say, you know, we've certainly had much discussion. I've seen your discussions over the last 2 meetings. I think there's been a lot of discussion. I think we all know what the issues are. I think it's time that we move forward and do something.
Okay, I would consider a motion if after we get through the discussion and we've all had 5 minutes each, if we just are really, I think I can do this. I would consider another motion to extend that time if we think we really need it. So why don't I just place that there and we can cross that bridge when we get to it. If there is no other discussion, we can call the roll. Okay, let's call the roll.
Sorry. Councilmember Stricula,
No.
Vice Mayor Gilb,
Yes.
Councilmember Hunterlaw,
Yes.
Mayor Grossman,
Yes.
Councilmember Nelson,
No.
Councilmember Chance,
No.
Councilmember Bradburn.
Yes.
Jeff?
The motion passes with 4 affirmative votes. So when we get to the appropriate point, considering this piece of legislation, at least unless council takes action otherwise, council members would have a limit of 5 minutes to make their position known.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Mayor, may I make a motion to table?
Well, I haven't put the ordinance, I haven't made a motion for the ordinance to go on the floor. And please mute your microphone if you don't have the floor. So I do need a motion to, ordinance 2020-43. I need a motion to read by title only.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, am I calling the roll before we read by title only? Yes, I need to call the roll before reading by title only. Excuse me.
Vice Mayor Guild,
Yes.
Councilmember Hunterlaw, Councilmember Hunterlaw,
Yes.
Mayor Grossman,
Yes.
Councilmember Nelson,
Yes.
Councilmember Chance,
Yes.
Councilmember Bradburn,
Yes.
Councilmember Stricula,
Yes.
Okay, Jeff.
Thank you, Mayor. This is ordinance 2020-43, authorizing the city manager to enter into a service agreement in the amount of $500,000 with Mason Deerfield Chamber Community Development Corporation and declaring an emergency.
Okay, I need a motion to adopt after the second reading.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
And now it's time for council discussion. So are there, TJ, you had a motion before?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to table.
Okay, so with the motion to table, I need a second.
I'll second that. Yes.
Okay, so now we can have council discussion on the motion to table.
I'm sorry, who seconded that?
Vice Mayor Gill. So now we can have council discussion on the motion to table ordinance 2020-43. And the discussion has to be germane to the rationale for tabling or not tabling. So I will, Councilmember Honorlaw, you made the motion. Would you like to go first?
Sure. So I believe this matter should be tabled to give us more time to consider how to respond to the sudden and extremely unusual events of the past 23 days. You know, I care about the entire community and its small businesses. I am a small business owner too. We do not need to act in haste. We should not be duplicating efforts or waste our limited resources. A chronology of the last 23 days, a little over 3 weeks. You know, it's helpful to put this in perspective, I think. March 9th, 2020, the Governor DeWine declared a state of emergency. March 13th, President Trump declared a national state of emergency. March 14th, the Ohio Department of Health closed kindergarten through 12 schools. March 15th, the Warren County activated its Emergency Operations Center. March 15th, the Ohio Department of Health, or the Ohio Health Department, the OHD, ordered food, beverage, and alcohol sales to carry out only. March 16th, the OHD stopped Ohio's primary election. March 17th, OHD limited gatherings in public. March 17th, OHD closed bowling alleys, health clubs, movie theaters, rec centers, indoor water parks, and indoor sports facilities. March 18th, OHD closed barbershops, hair salons, nail salons, and tattoo parlors. March 21st, the OHD closed all indoor family entertainment businesses. March 22nd, the OHD issued a stay-at-home order. March 22nd, the OHD limited daycare centers operation. Thus, from March 9th to March 22nd, Ohio shut down schools, businesses, social life, and employment for an extremely large part of our society throughout Ohio, including Mason. It has, in fact, this has occurred throughout the nation stopping the best economy and the lowest unemployment rates in my lifetime. This has had a devastating impact on everyone in Ohio, including small businesses, large businesses, sole proprietors, and our entire society. This has come upon us quickly and is unprecedented. All of this has occurred in the last 23 days, now in a little over 3 weeks. What's more, this has been felt across our entire nation and throughout the entire world. We, of course, are deeply concerned for everyone. We have all been impacted by what has happened, and we pray that the COVID-19 will be stopped as soon as possible. Congress has just acted as well. I believe we need time to take a careful, appropriate approach to this matter, and we will do so as soon as we can. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Anyone else? Councilmember Chance?
Yeah. Well, I hear Vice Mayor Gilb, who's here for the first time in our 3 different meetings, come on and say, I've watched the lengthy discussions that you guys have had. When I say lengthy, it's been 5.5 hours collectively, I think, that we've gotten together. So now we're spanning almost a week. And Mr. Hunnewald, thank you for sharing that. And I think pretty much everyone on this call and everyone watching understands all of those items that you just described. However, you contradicted yourself pretty badly there. First of all, you said we shouldn't act out of haste. You know, Mayor, you talked about somebody that, well, I know who it is. It's Scott Schmidt from Clybourne's. He says, you know, he sent me the email, by the way. He says he had $8 million in revenue on March 15th. He woke up to 0. Do you think that is haste? You think that's a pretty sudden move? And then we also talk about how this came on, out of your own mouth, TJ. You just said this came on to us very quickly. Quickly, like that's an understatement of the universe right now. Quickly, March 15th to March 16th, people went from generating revenue to 0. And not only that, but if you, and I'm not going to have to, I don't want to hone in on just restaurants, but think about this. Restaurants have inventory. Do you understand that? So you know what the same gentleman did from Clybourne's? He had a grocery store. $60,000 of his inventory, he condensed from his 4 restaurants to his 1 restaurant. And you know what he did? He had his employees come and show up and go grocery shopping for free for him. And here we are, here we are saying, hey, let's just wait. Let's just kick it down the road a little bit. Well, that's just, I don't understand this. Can you explain to me why you want to table this? Have you not had enough time to review, to discuss, to understand what we are trying to pass? You can answer that.
Mayor, I'm thinking that Councilmember Chance we're supposed to be talking to you as the chair of the meeting instead of directing each other directly. Is that correct? I think I made my statement. I made my position known.
So I can't ask other council members questions? We do it all the time.
Mayor, you're muted.
I'm so sorry. Well, no wonder that didn't make any sense. I was trying to ask Councilmember Chance, do you want, I'm gonna have to stop my timer. Do you want Vice Mayor Gilb to answer your question now, or do you want to finish up with everything and then have him address your questions?
Well, I addressed, that was to Councilmember Hunnewald.
I'm sorry, Councilmember Honderlaw.
Vice Mayor Gilb has not been at any of our meetings, so I don't have any questions for him.
Do you want to go ahead and finish, Councilmember Chance?
No, I'm pretty much good. I just, like I
done?
said, if we sit here and contradict ourselves and say, hey, this came on very quickly, and now it's not time to act in haste.
Okay, we hear your.
Well, I would like.
We hear that you disagree.
You can answer my question.
Yeah, we hear that you disagree with Councilmember Honderlaw, and we appreciate your position on that. It's really
Appreciate
not.
That.
We appreciate your position, meaning that we understand it. Okay, is there anyone else that would like to comment? Councilmember Nelson.
I would just like to say, first of all, again, I'm very disappointed that we went into an executive session. It had nothing to do with this. That was a total abuse of power, in my opinion. I'm also disappointed in our city that we have wasted so much time. I am a business leader. I run businesses, and I have never seen such an ineffective and inefficient way to run a meeting or to get anything done. We have spent way too much time. You should come to these meetings with your homework complete, with a couple questions to ask, and be ready to vote. TJ, I'm sorry if you don't feel like you have enough time to make a decision. I feel like the individuals who are voting to table this are scared to come out to our community and vote how they feel. And this is a way for them to get around it without being accountable. We need to be accountable. We were elected by our residents. If you have spent any time talking, calling, going to see any of these small business owners, your heart would bleed for them. They are our community. We are a big family, and this is part of our family. And like I said before, we have done so much for large corporations. We need to support our small corporations in this time. I'm just extremely disappointed in how all this was done. Mason has enough money. Mason has more than enough money. We are such a blessed community, and not to be able to turn around and just help them and support them. And it's not our money, it's taxpayers' money. And within 24 hours, there was over 1,000 signatures of residents that said that they support using their tax dollars to help businesses. So I obviously am extremely for it. I want to help them. I am here for them. And if we don't vote today, it's because you're being a coward and you haven't prepared. Because
Councilmember Nelson,
excuse me, I still have
point of order. No. Point of order. That is a direct insult and a character assassination. That is a flagrant.
Okay, I still have the floor. Excuse me.
No, an apology would be in order, not another.
I'm not going to apologize. I'm not going to apologize. We should be voting. We should not be continuing to let this go.
Calling someone names is completely inappropriate.
Well, it is what it is. I mean, we need to vote. We don't need to keep, this is ridiculous how we have, our residents have, 6.5 hours now of videos to watch to see how government needs to run things. It's ridiculous. This is not a difficult topic. It shouldn't take 6.5 hours of meetings to come to a decision. And now we have to wait. Let's wait. Let's wait until all our businesses go out of town and we don't have a downtown anymore. We don't have dentists. We don't have flower shops. We don't have stores. We don't have restaurants. I'm saddened for our community at this point, and I'm finished.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Guild.
Yeah, so we're certainly in historic and unprecedented times. We've seen the U.S. Congress address this whole issue. I'm a lawyer. I'm a former judge. I reviewed that complicated law that President Trump signed last Friday, the Coronavirus Act, the Relief and Economic Security Act, the CARES Act, they're calling it, to help the U.S. economy to fight COVID's impact. And individuals who earn $75,000 are going to get a direct payment of $1,200. Married couples who earn less than $150,000 are going to get $2,400 plus an added $500 per child. The CARES Act has many provisions to help small businesses. First, our Small Business Administration economic injury disaster loans. Because Warren County is a disaster area, all small businesses can obtain these disaster loans up to $2 million. They provide for 30-year repayment at low interest rates. The CARES Act allotted $10 billion for these small impact loans and $350 billion for paycheck protection loans. The loans can be approved solely on credit scores. I certainly want to give the community hope that this issue is being addressed, has been addressed by the federal government. Economic development, small business loans under smaller than $200,000 can be approved without a personal guarantee. Borrowers can also receive $10,000 in emergency cash grant that will be forgiven if it's spent on paid leave, maintaining payroll, increased costs due to supply chain disruption, mortgage or lease payments, or repaying obligations that cannot be met because of revenue loss These things are certainly opportunities to build hope in our community and relief for them, and it's coming from our federal government. These are available to sole proprietors and independent contractors. The $10,000 grant is available even if the business does not qualify for any additional funds. Because the review process and the lending decision is based on self-certification and an applicant's credit score, the review process should go very quickly. There's no loan fees, there's no guarantee fees, there's no prepayment fees. As of just 2 days ago, March 30th, a streamlined application process was up and running. Small businesses, and let me say, small business in our community should immediately apply for that aid. It's available to them. The CARES Act also has a paycheck protection program, loan guarantee program. That program backs small business loans through local lenders. Loans are given for a maximum of lesser of $10 million or 2.5 times average monthly payroll cost, including wages for employees making under $100,000 per year, as well as paid sick leave, healthcare, and other benefits. Amounts spent on the first 8 weeks of operating expenses are forgiven. The loan forgiveness provisions of the CARES Act are very generous. The loans are forgiven for payroll cost and rent, electricity, gas, water, transportation, telephone, internet access, group health insurance premiums, healthcare costs. We need to understand the CARES Act, take it into consideration before we pass any legislation in our community. This has happened very quickly. There's no other city, as I've looked around Southwest Ohio, no other city is acting upon the type of legislation that we have in front of us here today. There's not one other city that has done anything like this. We need to take a careful look at this with the help of experts before we rush in and do anything. I certainly don't want to do anything that would disrupt the ability of our small businesses to take advantage of what the CARE Act provides for. This is all too recent, too complicated to act without careful consideration. And as an additional aside, I would just note that as I've seen the debate and watched the debate that has gone on here, it seems to be evenly divided council, 3-3. Certainly, even if I came in as a fourth vote, 4 votes isn't enough to get this legislation into position today to do anything. 4 votes would only mean that it would be effective 30 days from today. We need to act perhaps quicker than that. And I would rather see us table this now, come up with something that 5 of us can support, and move forward as we see how this CARES Act comes into play and helps the community where it can, and do what we can do to help fill the gap. So I've certainly supported the motion to table.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Councilmember Bradburn has been waiting. Would you like to make some comments this time?
Yeah, if I could, I think we need time to carefully consider the appropriate response of our relatively small city to an international pandemic with historic impact upon all of us. And it does. It has impacted all of us. This has impacted me. This has happened very quickly, and we've been hurt by the adverse effect of the COVID-19. I like to call it the Communist Chinese Party virus. This is not a time for anyone to attack each other. It is time to be considerate and thoughtful to everyone. The CARES Act, which basically I don't think any of us knew anything about it until at least our first meeting, which was Monday, is being rolled out. I respect my council colleagues and ask them to respect those who want more time to consider this matter in light of the extensive, complicated CARES Act that was just passed and whose benefits just started to be available 2 days ago. I think Councilman Gilb has pointed out a number of items in the CARES Act that is actually a duplication of what the CDC is proposing. It's not too much to ask that we take time to review the law with careful consideration. Our congressional and state representatives have advised us to do precisely that before we do anything unilaterally. And that's what this is. This is a unilateral move. We are the only jurisdiction that I know of which is being pressured in this way. Every small business in the country is faced with issues that our small businesses are experiencing. This is a historic event. Never seen anything like it. If you do drive the streets, there's nobody out there. and it is a national emergency. We are doing no one any favors by rushing headlong and to do something ill-conceived with little thought or consideration just to do something. We know a lot of us are hurting, so are we as a council. We know a lot of you feel helpless and can't find any help right now, but help is on the way. The federal government has stepped in a very major way. I have seen or listened to some discussion today on WLW about the CARES Act. A lot of the concerns of small businesses covered by that. It's already passed 3 stimulus bills, that is Congress, the last of which, the CARES Act, is 800 pages long. I think we really need to take a day or two to at least digest that and see how it does affect the small businesses. So thanks to Mike for wading into this for us. We need to stay calm, to not attack each other, and to take time and care to make reasoned and good decisions. We're not playing politics. We're seeking wisdom, good judgment, and sound decisions during an extremely difficult period. It's not time to panic or to act without thought. We can act carefully, and we will do so, at least I will do so, as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Bradburn. Councilmember Stricula, do you have any comments?
I do. I've got a couple. I think I'll start just thanking the CDC board members for being here, thanking the chamber for being here, thanking Mr. Riegelsberger for being here. In regards to tabling this, we already had a vote on this that was to table, and it didn't pass. It didn't pass. I'm somewhat insulted because Councilmember Bradburn said this was ill-conceived and not well thought out. That was a direct insult to me, Councilmember Bradburn, and I would appreciate an apology at some time in the near future. And I will say that the intent of this and the heart behind it has been totally lost. And it was meant to be something very simple, something very easy that we could do to show our support for the community as a whole. It was done in a very similar fashion and much, much faster, I will say, with the city of Hamilton. And I guess because of that, and I looked at this and I looked at how we could do something, my frustrations have floated to the surface. They have, and I do. The passion for what we're trying to do here is there, and because those frustrations came out, the city and the community deserves better. And so I'll apologize to them. Second, I need to apologize to Councilmember Honorlaw for my reaction to him asking for a response from the residents on Monday night. Well, I believe that we've heard from the residents because they elected us to make decisions on their behalf in a representative form of government. That does not excuse my behavior the other night. And Councilmember Arnold, I am sorry for that. I apologize. In regards to tabling this, I'm going to refer to Vice Mayor Gilb's comment when he made the motion to limit us to 5 minutes. He said he's watched the discussions over the last 2 videos, and we've had plenty of discussions and plenty of time to talk about it. And then to go and say, hey, we need to table it. I mean, that's somewhat contradictory, I think. And so, yeah, on his comment, we've had plenty of time to discuss it. It's time for action, and it's time to do something. I do appreciate the commentary on the CARES Act. I think it is extremely important that and I appreciate Vice Mayor Gilb's efforts in finding that information. It is important to get that out to the community, and these are resources that they can have. I am absolutely not in favor of tabling this. I asked on Monday night as we were going through this to say what additional information do we need to be able to make a decision tonight. And there were two things that we needed, two things that were brought up, and that was it. And that was a memo from the finance director, and that was also the response from the residents, and we've received both of those. And so now it's time to act. It is time to do something. So I am absolutely against tabling this.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Stricula. I really appreciate the sentiments and your remarks, and I appreciate your act of being a peacemaker today. I appreciate that very much. Okay, Councilmember Chance, I actually have been running my stopwatch, and you have 2.5 minutes.
Perfect. This won't take 2.5 minutes, but I think it's pretty convenient now. First of all, I've been in Mason since 1980, and I'm very proud of this city. I've watched it obviously grow from a little farming community to where we are today. And I know what else is attached to that is leadership. Mason is revered. People look at us for leadership, and right now, it's probably the most lack of leadership I've ever seen. I mean, so now it's real convenient for all of these local government folks to sit here and say, well, I want to wait on Big Brother. And Vice Mayor Guild, if you would have watched our past discussions, you would have seen we discussed this CARES Act, and we all sat there and said, hey, we agree with it. That is awesome that they're out there doing that. But for us to attach ourselves to an 800-page document, have you talked to anyone that's tried to do this? Councilmember Hunterlaw, Councilmember Bradburn, Mayor, or Josh, Diana, have you guys talked to anyone? Well, I have. And it's an absolute nightmare. And I think it's hilarious that we're sitting here saying, well, now let's just wait on Big Brother to help. No, we're leaders. That's what we were elected to do. And I think Councilmember Nelson pointed it out before. We have, in 24 hours, there's 1,000 signatures. Hey, folks, you know what we were doing? We were elected to make decisions, not to sit and wait on Big Brother, who we hate every other time, right? When it's convenient, we don't like them. When we need them, we're like, oh yeah. So I just don't understand that. And I apologize about my tone too, but I am passionate about this. I am a small business owner. And for us just to kick this down, and it is politics, it's just the optics of this. You're not there for the first 2 meetings, and the third meeting you swoop in and you read a CARES Act to us it's very available. I don't need you to read it to me. It's been printed, pasted on social media, and every email. I've seen it. I've done it. I've done my research. I don't need to be read to again. I don't care about that either right now. What we care about is our small businesses. What I care about is being a leader and getting something done now. Just sit back and wait for Big Brother makes no sense. And it's an absolute shame that we're going to table this, because to Josh's point, goodness gracious, we needed 2 things. We needed a box to check to say that they are willing to sign up for the stimulus package, and that we would get a memo from Joe. We got both of those. So, and you know what? I apologize to the chamber and the CDC. Councilmember Bradburn, that was extremely degrading, acting as if they have not taken their time. They have not taken their time to prepare these documents, because they put a lot of hard work into it. So I just want to go on record and say I apologize, both the chamber and the CDC. And Councilmember Stricula, well done. Well done getting this thing in front of us.
And we're out of time on that. All right, I'm going to set my stopwatch for myself now. All right, so everyone has had an opportunity to speak, and I'm going to share my position on tabling. Since my time on council, our long-term economic development initiatives culminated into a robust local economy that was beginning to hit its stride. Those programs that focused on larger companies enabled us to keep tax residential and earnings tax burdens low, allowing us to shift our focus to local, smaller business initiatives. That is, up until mid-March of this year. Although I was working to facilitate some new initiatives centered around workforce development and finding ways to bring our small and larger businesses and educational communities together, as a brand new mayor, suddenly, we've had to adapt to very different and very difficult circumstances. It's appropriate for us to aggressively but carefully craft initiatives that promote our local small business community and workforce, and to address how their needs have changed during this fast-paced, ever-changing health emergency. Having said that, I'm struggling with the urge of some to rush into this particular piece of legislation before it's ready. That does not mean I am ready to abandon the effort. It just means that I need more time. It's not to stall or play politics, as some have alleged, but to work with care. Specifically, I'm struggling with the proposal to hand over a large amount of public funds, $500,000, to a private nonprofit. So that is one of my hangups, and I need more time for that. This legislation in its current form needs work to bring clarity, precision, and objectivity to the selection criteria proposed, as well as to address the unease of some council members with the budget and the funding mechanism. I believe we should take more time to address the details of the proposal instead of rushing. Proponents have conceded that the funding comes nowhere close to addressing the actual needs these businesses face, and it is uncertain that any amount we contribute will make a dent at this time. However, I want to keep working on it, and I want the small business community to understand how much we care. The gesture that I want to extend to you of care and love and concern and leadership is that I want to keep working on it to make something that is broader. I feel this vision is too narrow. We can broaden it. We can expand what we want to do. We just need some time to talk about it as an economic development committee, to hear from our staff, to have time as a finance committee to find out what the possibilities are with our finance director. If we took more time to craft a strategy that could perhaps be more effective and have a longer term impact, in my view, it's okay to collaborate with some more of our staff and take more time. We haven't been able to hear from them yet. I'd rather spend more time and more money on something that will work better than to work in haste right now with the proposal in its current form. Let's consider how we can reallocate priorities as a council with spending in 2020 and 2021, and compare this proposal with a larger fund that creates back to work stimulus to help get our businesses back open. And I would like to concede or offer a conciliation to council if we could just have a week or two to see how the CARES Act rolls out. It's supposed to be open and into effect, I think, by Monday. We know it's going to be messy. We know it's not going to be perfect. But if we could just wait, and if in 2 weeks we can come up with a plan for a large fund, and we can model that after incentive plans that we do for larger corporations, and we can focus on these small businesses and their readiness when the time comes that we can bolster them and get them open. I want to have the funding to be there for them. And my fear right now is that $500,000 is not enough to make a meaningful impact on what they need now. But it is a meaningful gesture. It is a meaningful, heartfelt gesture. But by the time we spread it out over all the need, it's such a small amount of money per business, even though it's a very large contribution to a nonprofit. I think there are other things we can consider, and I want us to have the time to work through that. So council, I humbly and mindfully and with a very heavy heart ask you to wait and to trust and give us a little bit more time. And if in that fund, let's just give you an imaginary number. Let's say we can find $1.5 million to $2 million to focus on small businesses and back to work incentives. Let's say after a couple of weeks, if this federal program is not working at all, we take a tranche of that and we dedicate it towards immediate assistance. But for right now, let's wait. And please understand my heart and the mission to keep focusing on this. And thank you, Councilmember Chance, because I accidentally bumped the stop button on my stopwatch and I lost track of my time. So my time is up, and it is now time to call the roll on the motion to table ordinance 2020-43.
Councilmember Hunterlaw,
Yes.
Mayor Grossman,
Yes.
Councilmember Nelson,
No.
Councilmember Chance,
I just need a correction. Is $500,000 more or less than zero? No.
Councilmember Bradburn,
Yes.
Councilmember Stricula,
No.
Vice Mayor Gill.
Yes.
Jeff?
The motion to table passes with 4 affirmative votes.
Okay. At this time, I would like to ask staff to schedule an Economic Development Committee meeting and a Finance Committee meeting for this Friday, if at all possible. We will give you a due notice and a public announcement. Let us take some time to look into this. We'll start the process this Friday if we can. And we will be back to work through this with council as soon as possible.
Just so the public knows, we have a CPA and a financial advisor on our council that's not on the finance or the economic development.
You don't have the floor. The chair has the floor at this time. I'd also like to take a moment before we adjourn to again thank our representatives from the Maid Chamber and the CDC and our staff who are here. And I would also like to take a moment to thank and applaud the leadership of Councilmember Stricula. He's brand new to this council. He's barely had enough time to get a locker at this place. And yet, that was a joke, I'm sorry. And yet he has come up with an innovative plan with a lot of heart and passion behind it. And I am happy that this has tabled, because I would rather see it tabled and we take a little more time than to have this go away as something that failed, because it's not a failure. It's a win, Josh Stricula. It's a win. And I want everybody to recognize that. His leadership and his attention to this, to get us moving on this mission is really vital, and we're going to make some progress on this, and I think we can expand on his vision in short order. So with that, I'd like a motion to adjourn, please.
I'd like to make some comments, Mayor, if I may, since you directly
I made
mentioned my
the
name.
comments about Councilmember Stricula. I would say that's fair. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that, but this is not a win. This is not a win for the community. It is not a win for small businesses. It is not a win for the residents. It is not a win. It's not a win. I'm sorry. It is not a win. And I am just devastated at what I have seen play out over the last 3 meetings. I never imagined, you're right, I am new. And I never imagined. And so I hope that we can do something that's worthwhile. But this is just, this is not a win.
It's a win for dirty politics.
Okay, that is a violation of the rules, Councilmember Chance. And please, council members, refrain from mischaracterizing or characterizing anybody's motives. You can't read our minds. It's inappropriate.
And you guys had written statements. No one else had written statements on how to table this thing. No one else did. How did you 4 all have written statements on your table?
Well, I always bring a written statement, or just about always.
Oh, because
Okay.
it's
Councilmember Chance, I've asked for a motion to adjourn. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. We are adjourned. I appreciate everyone, your help, and for those of you who tuned in.
And I want to say I'm sorry to our community. Thank you for tuning in.